Hey, shithead. When's the last time you picked your feet? Huh?
Yeah, what's he talking about?
I got a man in Poughkeepsie who wants to talk to you. You ever been in Poughkeepsie? Huh? Have you ever been in Poughkeepsie?
Hey, man, come on, give me a break. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Let me hear you say it. Come on. Have you ever been in Poughkeepsie? You've been in Poughkeepsie, haven't you? I want to hear it. Come on.
Yes, I've
You've been there, right?
Yeah.
You sat on the edge of the bed, didn't you? You took off your shoes, put your finger between your toes, and picked your feet, didn't you? Now say it.
Yes.
All right. You put a shield in my partner. You know what that means? God damn it. All winter long, I gotta listen to him gripe about his bowling scores. Now, I'm gonna bust your ass for those 3 bags, and I'm gonna nail you for picking your feet in Poughkeepsie.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I'm Ryan from Cultsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
Yeah, we're doing pretty well. A little late on this episode. Apologize for that. Martin had a little gastrointestinal distress and lost his voice for a little while, so we weren't able to actually record anything. So it's the reason for the delay, unfortunately.
I was going to say that norovirus is no joke.
Kicked your ass there.
That's literally the sickest I've been in 20 years.
Yeah. It reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where Seinfeld hasn't thrown up in 10 years or something like that. And then he eventually gets sick. That was you.
Yeah, no, it was. But that's awful. So I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That's how bad it was.
That's crazy. Well, anyway, we're glad you're feeling better so we could get back to it. And we wanted to, this episode was meant to be a tribute to the late, great Gene Hackman, who, I think at this time it's been 3 weeks, almost a month. Yeah.
Actually, it's been over a month
now. Since we've been able to get this out and record. But, we wanted to put that together. We generally try to do some tributes to, people who have recently passed away. And for Gene Hackman, we had already scheduled a couple of things prior to that. But now that we have some time, we wanted to tackle one of his, probably one of his best movies. And again, I will admit that I am not a Gene Hackman follower. I don't think I've really seen many Gene Hackman movies, to be honest with you. The Royal Tenenbaums, outstanding, I think. So it's kind of another area, a gray area for me. I don't really, have much experience, but, Martin offered up a couple of different options for good Gene Hackman movies that we could tackle, and we decided on one of a Parisian descent. If I have a good French accent, I'll try to do it the oui,
Baguette.
Baguette. I don't know why I'm doing it sort of like a mafioso French French accent, but yeah. I mean, I guess it plays in.
Let's say that was a little uncouth.
Yeah, I guess it plays in kind of with the movie that we're doing today, which is The French Connection. Directed by William Friedkin, also a very prominent director, as we were talking about earlier.
Also known as Bill by his friends.
Oh, yeah, Bill. Yeah.
Old Bill Friedkin.
And Bill Friedkin, otherwise known as that dude who did the Exorcist movie. No. He's a great director. He's done a lot of good movies, but doesn't necessarily get as much recognition for some of the things he's put out that other directors do. And, I do think towards the end of his life, because he died in 2023, was a little bit more esteemed. There was definitely as we get into this, boutique Blu-ray epidemic that we have of releasing, various older movies in the best quality possible. A revisiting of his movie oeuvre has been done, And I do think that a lot of people have now found that they appreciate more of his films. I do know that he was kind of a surly motherfucker at the end of his life. He would, be very outspoken about the turn that cinema has taken into the superhero films and things like that. But, you can kind of think of him, huh? Well, yeah. Yeah. You can kind of think of him in a Lynchian way as well. I feel like he had many of the same feelings as David Lynch did. So, but Bill Friedkin. And, it's funny because this would be our first Bill Friedkin movie that we've done. Notice I'm calling him by Bill. I'm a friend now. We haven't even done The Exorcist yet. We did The Exorcist Believer, but we've never done the original Exorcist. So
we're gonna go out of our way and do all the crap first before we do the best. We'll work through The Exorcist.
All the other sequels and stuff.
Yeah, the filmography. And capstone it with the best.
That's right. So the French Connection. Why did you pick the French Connection? Why was that something on your radar?
So, I am a Gene Hackman fan. Hackman.
Hacksaws.
He is an actor that I think has always been somebody I've always liked. He's always, puts on a great performance, very engaged. I especially think of, the Royal Tenenbaums being one of the first main films, that I can remember as a teen watching, and like when I was starting to kind of get a little bit more interested in the nuances of, some of the film. His portrayal as Royal as just like, this sarcastic, slimy bastard of a man, but has a great deal of charmingness to him, rather engaging. And so, I've seen a bunch of his movies. Enemy of the State, they used to play on USA 24/7 at one point. The Will Smith movie that he's in. He's like that. And so, I just always appreciated his output, from this to Unforgiven, Welcome to Mooseport, his final film with Ray Romano.
Struggling to get that one out to today with your voice, but
I've always appreciated it. And I wanted to do the French Connection because if you watch, not watch. If you listen to our podcast, one of the type of films that not just myself but Ryan too, that we really enjoy films of like the 70s and have that certain kind of grimy, gritty, noir bastardliness to them.
Yeah.
And The French Connection is a perfect film that encapsulates that time period, that style of filmmaking, that style of storytelling. And I think it's one of the pinnacles of that time period. What this film is able to achieve and what Gene Hackman does in it and what William Friedkin does as directing it's terrific. It's like great cinema. Like if you watch this film, as you were saying how, Will Friedkin was, very surly, talking about like superheroes and CGI and all that stuff. He's got a damn point, because if you watch like this film and you compare it to like Infinity War, like the $5 billion of CGI they put in there, as everyone's fighting, it's like, all right, this is something. This is like feels real. This is visceral. All the stuff they have to do is real. Makes it a hell of a lot more engrossing, and my opinion, that much more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about we've done a number of movies that have taken place in the 70s New York City lifestyle. A very specific time in that area of crime, a very just the way that it was presented in 70s movies is very aesthetic, not in a pleasing way, I guess, but in more of like a gritty, realistic way. And I think the French Connection has that too. So it kind of plays into that idea of, harkening back to that time period too, of just showing a different side of New York City at that time. One that we might not think about now when you see, we watch a lot of different films that feature New York City now. It's a very different place. A lot of times those movies would center around like Manhattan or something like that. Whereas, back in the day, 1970s movies, French Connection specifically, Brooklyn area, crime-addled parts of the city. So really fun to see that too. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we get into the movie proper. But first, let's take a break and talk about the beer that we have on the show. I was in charge of getting that today. And we had both seen that there was an interesting new release from Sloop Brewing Company, which we've done multiple times in the past. One of my favorites that I like to get, whenever they have a new beer out, I like to try to grab it. This one was...
Not that FOMO.
Yeah, pretty much. This one was one that struck my eye because it is a collaboration with Marist, which, is kind of interesting to have Marist College just as a beer collaboration, as a college with a brewery. But, I guess it makes sense, especially coming out during NCAA tournament season. Now it really makes sense, but we're drinking Red Fox IPA today from Sloop Brewing Company in collaboration with Marist. Marist,
College.
Huh?
I said college.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, where is Marist based, by the way? Where is Marist University?
Somewhere down towards the Hopewell Junction area. I don't know exactly where it is, but
well, you know what? You picked a great beer because it's spot on. Because you know where it is?
Right by Poughkeepsie.
It is in Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, it's right. Right there.
Yeah.
You've been
picking your feet
in Poughkeepsie. Right there with the film. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, Marist is a pretty what do you think? It's a fairly big college in New York State, I think, right?
I'm looking right now to see what their students are. 6,600.
Yeah, so it's, not huge, but fairly. I mean,
it's kind of huge for us.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I mean, it's not huge, not big in, from a normal standpoint, but I think from a New York State standpoint, especially in this area, that's a pretty big college. Never been there, haven't seen it, but it looks pretty nice, from what I've seen. And it looks like, again, this is Sloop reaching out, doing a collaboration with a local community, which is kind of nice to see as well. And I like, they like to support that. So it looks like this collaboration is sort of like, again, to, sort of timed correctly with the NCAA tournament and stuff like that. So I think it's cool. The Red Fox must be Marist mascot, I'm assuming.
Jesus Christ. You know what is like even more serendipitous? I'm looking at famous alumni. You know who went to Marist?
I'm going to guess Roy Scheider.
No.
Bill
O'Reilly.
Oh, okay.
Actually, no, that's not the one. Jeff Sutphin.
Oh, yeah. Jeff Sutphin. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see it right there. Yeah, I see. Yeah. Red Fox being the mascot, so that makes sense for the beer. And we get an IPA from them, which is standard, tried and true for Sloop. Doesn't tell you I mean, it gives you a little bit dry hopped with hand selected Pacific Northwest hops. Now it doesn't really give you any indication of what those Pacific Northwest hops are, nor does it really. Why Pac Northwest for a Poughkeepsie college? But you know what? It's fine. We don't have a plethora of New York State grown hops. It's not really, a huge part of our economy, but yeah, man, I mean, I'll take it. So this Red Fox IPA, I think it's pretty good. I'm not going to say that it's, I don't know if I would say it's a standout from Sloop. I think it's really good. It's a solid IPA. I think it has a very, I don't know what I'm looking for. Just a common IPA quality to it. It's somewhat hazy. Nothing really stand out about it to say like, wow, there's, this burst of like, citrus or berry or whatever you're thinking. It's kind of middle of the road for me, like in terms of flavor. It's just, it's a nice, solid, hazy IPA, but I don't know that I would say that it's like anything outstanding or surprising to me. It's just another Sloop IPA done very well. And I think, too, the kind of genericness of what it's saying is in this batch with the dry hopped Pac Northwest hops. And it just all kind of blends together to be like, kind of standard IPA from Sloop. So really good. You can't really go wrong with a Sloop IPA. I will also say though that nothing really stands out to me about it. It's just, middle of the road IPA from Sloop for me.
Yeah, I would say I agree. It is middle of the road, which I mean, it's not bad though. I would say it's leans more, especially at 5.3%. It feels to me more like a pale ale. It's got a little bit more breadiness to it, a little bit more maltiness to it. Does have like a hint of like a zesty orange peel to it. Like that's the main NIPA kind of staple there. And then it just kind of like has like a little bit of a very thin mouthfeel at the end. So it's very easy to drink. It's not quite a session. It's like in between pale ale and like a session IPA. It kind of feels like. It's not bad, but I wouldn't say like go out of your way to try it unless you're somebody who's got FOMO over Sloop beers or you're a fan of Marist College.
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess if you're a big Marist fan, seek it out. Again, I think it's fine. I think it's really good. It's a pretty standard IPA. It's nothing that's going to be like outstanding. So I don't think it's something you really absolutely have to seek out because it's pretty middle of the road for Sloop, but it's a solid drinker. And I agree with you too. I think like as an IPA, it's very, very drinkable, sessionable. And probably meant to be that way as well. It almost seems like it's something that like you would get on prem at the college when you're at like a game or something like that. Like, I don't know if Marist does that, like some of the bigger universities, but if you're at a basketball game or something and they're selling beer, like I could definitely see this Sloop collab being there as like a nice drinkable.
Do they even do that?
I don't know. No,
I'm not even just saying that, but I'm just saying like,
you mean like
colleges in general? I don't.
Most of the time, no. I feel like not. I mean, at the NCAA tournament, yes, but I feel like most of the time at normal colleges, no. I don't know about the bigger ones, because I've never been to. Well, you know what? I've been to a Syracuse game. I feel like yes, they do. I feel like
that's it. Well, that's at the I'm saying like something on campus.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Because I mean, the Syracuse, that's at the carrier. Well, it's not the carrier. I don't know what the hell it's called.
I mean, it's still
the carrier.
Yeah,
but it's not.
It's like it's like its own thing.
It's not on university proper.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I could see it though. I could see a Marist doing something. Again, like if they're playing somewhere, I could see it being offered as sort of the beer du jour.
Man, that would have made going to hockey games at Oswego a lot more fun if we were able to get beer.
Right. It is funny though, because especially with Marist, an undergrad college, having a brewery make a beer for your college, a little weird. Half of your more than half your population can't legally drink, but it's funny. But all right, on to the French Connection. Oui. Yeah, the French Connection is from 1970. Am I right? Did I get that right? I think I did. 71. Yeah. But I think it was shot in 70, released in 71. Based on a real story. based on a book as well that was written about the real story and turned into a film. This movie kind of starts in France, which has a great opening sequence of a man doing his business, walking along French streets, taking in the European scenery, grabbing a baguette at the boulangerie.
I was going to say, like, wow, like, what a, like, stereotype. Like, this man's just walking around Marseille on, like, the coastline.
Yep.
Baguette in hand.
Having a cigar, like his little cigar, grabbing a newspaper, stopping in at the local store to grab a baguette and just put it under his arm. Like,
Which, what a wonderful city Marseille is.
I mean, I've never been there, but...
Well, I'm just saying, it just looks beautiful.
It does. This film definitely makes it seem like a nice place to be because, that opening, I would say, is very... I mean, besides the... except for getting shot, getting blasted in the face, it looks very nice, looks very quaint. And, I like how the film really, and Friedkin does this throughout the movie, but the film really allows the viewer to live in the moment, especially in this introduction as you're following this guy just doing his normal routine, walking along, getting back, like you're in the moment, you're kind of invited to just be there as a passerby. And this movie does this a lot as well. It does not have a lot of exterior music to it. So a lot of the time you are just literally watching and hearing the the intrinsic sounds of the area. Like, I think at the beginning of this movie, it has a lot of just like, you hear people on the street, you hear like passing cars, but you don't hear a lot of music itself. And it sort of like invites the viewer in to live in this like environment, which I think is really great and works really well in the beginning of this movie because it starts out with like this nice surprising murder that occurs in Marseille. And so like that's the immediate opening of the movie. It is quite literally the French connection to the movie because then it switches over to Brooklyn. And I just wanted to point that out because I did love that little baguette under the arm sort of journey that we take with this guy. It's a very inviting place to live, I would say.
And then gets shot right in the face.
Yeah, this movie too does have very explosive squibs.
They're great. No. Like I think again, like that's part of the fun and visceralness of the film. Like in a film back then, they wouldn't even show him getting shot in the face. It just like would pan to him like, and then like gunfire. Here, it's like, okay, he's not just getting shot and a squib's going off. It's right in the fucking face and
yeah,
and you get to see the bullet hole and the blood go.
It's quick, but it's it's there obviously, and you do get to see it quite a bit. And the film doesn't really shy away from that violence throughout the movie either. It's it's very in your face and very it can be violent at times. It showcases the actual realism of the. I mean, you could say realism and kind of use that loosely, but it is very shocking at times. So I love that opening. I love it. It's great. I do wish that I could just walk along the streets and get a baguette whenever I feel like it.
Well, you can. It's just going to be like one from like a Walmart.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same as like walking into your fresh baked bakery.
Doesn't have the right level of staleness to it, for you to be like, I
had to think a little bit about like the germiness of that though. Just like you just walk in, you just grab an open baguette. It's just been in the open air, shove it under your dirty jacket, walk it home, accidentally rub it against the brick buildings. The dirt is the appeal there. So no, but I love that scene. And then, then you shift to Brooklyn and you meet Popeye. Gene Hackman's character, he's playing Santa Claus on the corner, ringing the bell, and him and his partner, played by Roy Scheider, are tailing some guy in this bar, and it's a great moment. It kind of signals what the viewer should expect from the movie moving forward, because again, this movie is very swift moving. It doesn't really take a lot of time to set things up. You're kind of thrown into the moment all at once, and you piece things together as the movie goes along. So it will show you various snippets, and then you kind of put it together. And I like that a lot. I feel like that's Friedkin saying, the viewer's smart enough to take all these elements and put them together. Doesn't need us to, summarize them for the, like a puzzle piece. It will allow you to see it through, and you just relies on the viewer to put those things together. And I like that a lot. What do you think about the whole Santa Claus runner thing that's going on, once we meet Popeye and his partner Cloudy?
It's great. It's it kind of shows like how far they're willing to go, to hide out and try to catch the people they're chasing.
Yeah, these guys aren't just like, detectives walking into places and like questioning guys.
Yeah. No, like they're, undercover trying to get who they can get.
And I think too, like obviously the whole chase sequence is really great because it has a lot of kinetic energy to it. You see fucking Hackman sprinting out, and the guy that they're chasing, he's sprinting like pell-mell very fast.
Well, hell, they're all fucking like, how... What does this say about us as human beings? We are shitty runners in our mid-30s. Don't smoke or anything. These fucks are 40. Heavy drunks, heavy smokers, doing like a 4-minute mile like it's, chariots of fire going down the street, I don't understand it.
I mean, it
must have been something in the water.
It is of note that they only shoot those sequences of them running for like 2 seconds, right? Because then like they had them running for like that, and then afterwards they turn the camera off and they're like, all right, day's done. You guys go home. We'll shoot the rest of the shots tomorrow. No, it's a great movement though, and like I said, it has a lot of kinetic energy. And when they finally catch them, again too, the movie has this tenuous connection with Popeye and Cloudy, where it's not quite it's not apparent whether the viewer should really be siding with them or not. Like, yeah, they're cops and they're detectives and they're trying, they're doing the best they can to take down drug dealers, right? But at the same time, the movie also offers up a lot of alternative thoughts about these guys, specifically Popeye, Gene Hackman's character, where the viewer's kind of like, like, are these guys good guys? This scene where you first meet them is, obviously the first one where you're kind of given that hint that pops in, because they basically beat the shit out of this guy that they're chasing down. And, basically Popeye's like, give me a reason and I'll beat the shit out of this guy.
You mean they were punishing him for getting, making them get their exercise in?
Pretty much. Like, you made me chase you guys. Yeah, but it's like, and again, it kind of gives you that first inkling that like, these guys, they're working as detectives and they're taking down drugs. But, and again, too, it's not as in your face as like, oh, wow, look, they just planted, cocaine on this dude and, busted him for it. It's not like that. It's not as, obvious as that. It's more so like Friedkin is constantly just giving the viewer a little bit more direction to go off of. Like, and it happens throughout the movie, too. It's like, sometimes Popeye drops racist dialogue. It's just says it blatantly outright, which I won't repeat on the show, but it happens a couple times in this movie. And then as a whole, Gene Hackman does a great job in here of being just an absolute dick most of the time. I don't know if you agree, if you find him as dickish as I do, but specifically how he acts throughout is just, straight assholery from him.
Yeah, no, he's a total prick in this movie, but charismatic at the same time.
Yeah, he is.
You know?
I also find it funny, like, I feel like Gene Hackman in this movie, too, he's got this very, like, he's got a baby face, but at the same time looks 50 years old. I don't know if...
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're
know?
not wrong. Like, he looks like he'd be, like, in his early 30s, and then he puts the fucking pork pie hat on. You're like,
yeah.
You're, like, 55, and then he takes it off, and it's like, oh, you're definitely, like, you know...
Because he has...
Like that's the wonder of, like, you know, years past. It's like somebody that was like 35 years old in 1972 and they look like they're 80 and like, compared, you know.
I feel like that's just part of the charm of the 70s. Just like
those turtlenecks just make everybody, like, you put 10 years on everyone.
Yeah, just made you look older. Like, I mean, and that the thing about the French Connection that really strikes me too is you know, this film is what, 54 years old now. Damn, that's
yeah.
Look at 71. I'm like, that's like 20 years old, right? No, it's 54 years old. It is astounding sometimes to just see how much life has changed from the 1970s when you watch this movie. Because again, we talked about, you know, New York City is very different than it was as depicted in this movie. This movie has a much more gritty selection of areas from the 1970s New York City. I think it intentionally shows a lot of like the garbage festooned streets of New York City, and but also not only that, but like the cars, the dress, like even walking into a bar and there's, you know, like basically like a trio of singers doing like cabaret jazz tunes, just very different from what we would expect from today, which I thought was, you know, just a very interesting dynamic in this movie that adds to its charm and appeal, I think.
Dude, don't get me started on the cars of the 70s. These like 5,000-pound behemoths.
Quite literally, because they talk about how heavy the car is at one point.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, but they talk like that. Those things kept the U.S. Rust Belt going still. Like, you know, how are we gonna get all this steel out of here? Just keep adding more metal to the fucking car. You know, we got these like 20-foot long cars with like, you know, 3 foot of like hood space and like 7 feet of trunk space. It's like, what were we?
I think this movie does a great job of showcasing that too, because they like literally take apart a whole car in this movie, and like just the sheer amount of like stuff that's on these cars, like these big ass boats of cars where they like are going piece by piece through every like little door panel, and you know the amount of, I guess the one thing that the 70s had going for it is there was a lot more room in your car to smuggle drugs than we have now. Like,
see, like you can see, well, that, and you can also see too, like when someone's like, "What do you think about car sex?" And this, you probably like talk to somebody from like this, you know, from the 70s and 60s. Like, oh, it's great. I had a fucking, you know,
the equivalent of a sofa in your back seat. Yeah. You're like, sure, yeah. I mean, it's basically having a living room back there, but yeah. Or even like the especially the front seat, which had no space between the driver's seat and the passenger seat, so like you had a whole bench there. Of course, you know, like it made it easier. It's less safe, but much easier for things like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just you know, especially sometimes you don't notice it as much. I feel like in the French Connection, you definitely notice the time passing and how much has changed since this movie. But it's great. It's like it's a great throwback. And one thing I did want to get into is the fact that this movie does have a lot of European connection to it. And I don't just mean that literally with like the French Connection, where, you know, part of it takes place in France and we have a French citizen, the, you know, guy who's running this drug smuggling ring. But the actual idea of like the European thriller, the European crime drama, you know, we've talked about some of them before. We've done Polizioteschi's on here, you know, so Spanish and Italian crime dramas were pretty readily available in the 70s. this movie definitely has a lot of the same feeling of some of those European crime dramas, but it does bring that American noirish element to it. And one thing that I think it does really well that European films don't necessarily do is to pick up the pacing quite a bit. It is very fast paced and swift moving in the way that it explores like the actual detective work that both of them are doing. And whereas like a European film might take a lot of time to actually do detective work, to the more boring elements of detective work, which is basically interviewing people, getting things literally, explicitly dialogued. This movie kind of takes a back seat to the detective work, and it focuses a lot more on tailing people, going undercover, those types of investigations that we don't generally see a detective doing. And I think it does it really well. Friedkin directs that immensely well. The choreography in this movie is like very good. I think that alone is what keeps this film moving so fast, because of the choreography of all of those tailing scenes, where we're not sitting around. We're watching these guys basically undercover all the time, and it's got that very quick, like snappy, fast pacing that really makes it a joy to watch. No, you're absolutely right. There is a briskness to the procedural, but there is quite a lot. Like, the movie is nothing essentially but procedural police. Yeah, it is.
Outside of like a couple of like different moments, it's watching, Roy Scheider and Gene Hackman, with these elaborate tales, the wiretaps, the, following people in a car, stakeouts. Like, there's a lot of great, procedural work in there that you would see in a, like, as you said, like a European film that's 2 hours long and, trying to be more focused and nuanced compared to where did that guy go? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But Friedkin's got a great pace to it. He knows how to pace it out. He knows how to like make all like the proceduralness seem interesting. It doesn't come across as L.A. noir, Cole Phelps picking something up and being like, not sure if this is relevant.
Yeah, I mean, it does, like, sometimes it does show, like, the mundanity of it, too. Like, they're wiretapping, and they're just sitting there eating, their dinner and writing down notes. That's so mundane of, like, she called and she said she's mad and she wants a pizza, and stuff like that. You see that mundanity, but at the same time, the film doesn't really focus on that as much as it does, like, the actual excitement of being on the tail. You're almost there with them as another cop on the tail. And Friedkin's, the cinematography of all of these unbroken shots of, like, you'll see, obviously you've got Gene Hackman and he's there waiting for a guy to come out the door. And then you've got a pan up of Roy Scheider over there, on the corner, and he's just sitting there waiting. And, they start moving, and then another guy comes out from the corner and starts moving as well. The synchronicity of it and the choreography of that all happening within one shot is really great. I think that's what adds to the kinetic energy of it, too, is that a lot of these shots are unbroken. So you just kind of get that, like, energy to it of these things all happening at once. I found it was, like, very hard to look away. Like, you wanted to be there in the moment and just keep watching as these guys tail them. And probably one of my favorite moments is actually, like, obviously throughout the film, there's a lot of discovery of, like, first they're on to this guy Boca, who they think is, connected to this drug deal in some way. And so they're tailing him, and they find out, like, oh, he's meeting with this French guy that keeps coming in, and he's meeting up with this guy a lot, and so there seems to be a connection, and there's a connection with another drug dealer in the area, and so that's kind of how they start to piece things together. And again, like I said, though Friedkin does cut away occasionally from Popeye and Cloudy to take a look into Charnier, who's the French guy that keeps coming in. For the most part, he plays it like pretty straight where we don't know a whole lot of what's going on. So as a viewer, we're kind of forced to piece it together. I think the best part, though, is when Popeye has finally found out like this guy Charnier is in the area. He's a French guy, and he's tailing him throughout and tails him to the subway, where Charnier is like also not an idiot, so he knows he's being tailed at the same time.
It's a really good cat and mouse.
Yeah.
You know, like...
And like eventually it becomes clear to the audience, like, yeah, Charnier knows that he's being tailed. Popeye knows that he's being tailed. You know, and it kind of goes back and forth there, and there's this great... It's almost comedic. You know, it's kind of has like a... I think intentionally, it has this comedic element to it of like Charnier gets on the subway, Popeye gets on the subway. You know, Charnier takes a step off the subway, goes to throw out his hanky.
Like it's an Abbott and Costello bit.
Yeah, almost, yeah. I mean, it does have a comedy to it, I think, and it works really well. I think it's really well done, well paced. It doesn't outstay its welcome. You know, there could be, you know, a too long segment of that where it's just like becomes too on the nose. I don't think this hits that. It's just a really great moment of seeing the two of them try to outplay each other. And it's really effective in this movie.
How did you like when they're doing the chase, Gene Hackman stopping for grape drink?
I was like, you know, that looks... I also, too, like...
And the little paper snow cone?
Yeah, the little snow cone thing. And I like how... Charnier drinking it just looks very weird. Like, you know, like as a proper guy who stops at this, like, like...
You can't believe it's being, you know, like, I can't drink this shit.
Yeah, exactly. I found it was kind of like a funny character element to him that he just did not seem the type to stop at it, like a little grape drink stand.
What was better, the grape drink or the candy apple that he got? And
the candy apple looks pretty good, actually.
You would think though, like somebody like Popeye would be like, give me a Hoffman's, give me a Nathan's, you know, a hot dog, not like
give me a hot dog.
Yeah,
I like that, and I like him eating a pizza slice on the corner too. Like this movie has a lot of great moments of just like, again, like mundanity of living in the city too, that I think it shows really well, where you know, and especially the dichotomy between Charnier, who's eating in this super fancy restaurant, and they bring out like, they've got like escargot, and they've got like this really nice looking, you know, beef cut that they bring out. And at the same time, there's Popeye standing on the corner, like shivering to death, drinking a shitty cup of coffee and eating a pizza slice that he got from like the local deli. It's a nice dichotomy there, and you can see like that. There's kind of like for Popeye, there's like this personal struggle too, like because again, the film, we didn't really talk about this, but Popeye himself, he has like this obsession with bringing this down. And there's a couple of reasons why. The film gives a very cursory look at his backstory, where we know that he was involved in another investigation where his partner died, got killed. And so that is kind of like brought up here and there throughout the movie. So there's like a personal investment for Popeye that like becomes an obsession. And I like how the film kind of has that dichotomy where it shows like how Popeye is kind of, you know, forced to be in the dregs while Charnier is really like having the time of his life. And there's kind of that, I don't know, like either jealousy or even like just like a anger at the fact that he's able to live like this, but like, you know, ruining people's lives with drugs. So I like how that all kind of plays out without the film having to explicitly state that too. Because there's not, I feel like, you know, the whole backstory of Popeye is kind of left to the viewer to piece together. There's not really anything that's specifically said about it. We don't really know that much about these detectives' lives. We don't know much, like specifically Roy Scheider's character Cloudy. He's just along for the ride. He's just a dude helping out his partner. And I kind of like that. I like that we don't get that much information about them.
You don't need to know because it's not the focus of the film.
Right. Like, and the film moves so quickly without having to know about all that stuff. I like that it's left to the fringes and you kind of piece it together. Now, what do you think about that, though? Do you think, like, are we supposed to find Popeye's obsession to be, like, too much? Is it like, I don't know, like, is this a guy that's gone rogue as a detective?
No, I don't think it's your 80s, like, you're off the case, Jack.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Like, come on, no, I think it's more grounded. It's not, I mean, like, there's obviously the talk that they have with their captain, like, when they're trying to get the wiretaps, and he doesn't believe them, and you got the one FBI being a very blunt douchebag, being like, that Popeye got a cop killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Popeye cop kill. Like,
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's not like, overly melodramatic, and like, it's a lot more grounded, and like, the captain's like, all right, ask, Roy Scheider, like, do you believe him? And he's like, he's got good hunches, he's a good cop,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean,
it's not bad. Like, it's not overstated.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're supposed to see his obsession as, like, unhealthy. Like, he's definitely, he's focused on it even when, his captains told him, like, get off this case, basically. But at the same time, we're supposed to see him as, like, motivated to stop this drug trade. And so, he knows that he's got something here, even if other people can't see it. And so, we're kind of tasked with following him. Now, the end of the movie kind of brings that to its fruition where, again, we've had this cat and mouse game between Charnier and Popeye throughout, where, Charnier has kind of outsmarted him at times and gotten away with it. At the end of the movie, they kind of make mistakes, and Popeye's there, and, at that time, he, it's basically signals to Charnier, like, it's the end of the line. But the movie ends on a note where they don't catch Charnier. He gets away. They might, tackle some of the drug ring, and they take down some of the smugglers. But, the main guy, Charnier, from, the literal French Connection, is able to slip away. Now, what do you think that says, about the film itself? That the movie ends, the French Connection ends with them not actually succeeding in taking down the main bad guy, the villain of the movie.
Brilliant, because you know what happens? The film ends, and it shows, like, all these people who were committed. We see the crimes they committed in the film and how light sentences they get.
Mm-hmm.
And how Charnier got away. That just means 3 years later, Charles Bronson's going to be real.
Right, yeah.
He's had enough.
Well, I mean, you think that's...
If the police can't do it, he will,
I mean, it's pretty obvious, that is a statement in itself that they decided to include those narratives of the people that they caught and how little sentencing they got from it. Of course, that's Friedkin, narratively putting in some things that he might not explicitly be saying, but, saying at the same time, like, oh, this crime, he didn't really get served as well as it should have. And I don't know, I'm not quite sure what the film itself, The French Connection, is trying to say about detective work, police, and, drug smuggling. I think it leaves it up to the viewer to kind of take away. I don't think it's very, I don't think it's receptive to the fact that, like, all police work is good police work. And I think that resonates more today. Like, I feel like it is very critical of the way that the police handle certain things in the investigation. Whereas at the same time, it is cognizant of the fact that, like, it's also important that we take down drug dealers. I don't know. I feel like it has a leaning both ways.
Yeah, no, definitely, because, like, Popeye's, drive on trying to take down Frog One is a sniper takes out a woman that was trying to take him out,
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, I feel like it's critical.
I don't think the film's applauding, or I think it's more nihilistic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's applauding, the police work, and I don't think it's, saying anything bad about it. And I don't really, to be honest with you, I don't really think there's a negative connotation really to the underworld part of it either. It's just like a very cut and dry, like, this is what it is. Go from there. You go with it. You take what you will from it. Because the one thing what you're talking about with these cops, with Roy Scheider and Gene Hackman, that we don't get to see who they really are, their backstories. All we really know about them is they like to go out and drink. They like to, get cigarettes out of the vending machine. What a time to be an American. A vending machine is cigarettes. Go to the bar, the cabaret show, as you said. See some teenager riding a bike and, stare at the ass and take her home and get handcuffed to your bed and your partner come in to help you out, the good life. Just showing how, Popeye's a flawed, not a great guy.
Yeah.
But he's doing, something. He has a goal. He's driven.
I like too at the end of the movie where it sums up Popeye and Cloudy at the end, and they're like, they were reassigned. This is pretty blatant. Like,
I'm taking you off the case.
Didn't go as well. I mean, and that's partially because fucking Popeye, in his sort of drive to get Charnier, just blasts the FBI agent Molderig to death, who's just like, obviously it's not a great thing that Molderig was like prowling around while they were searching for Charnier. Didn't announce himself, but at the same time, like, again, an investigation that Popeye was involved in ended up with a dead detective. It's not a good rap. So I do like at the end, the film just blatantly is like, yeah, they were reassigned. They not on narcotics division anymore. They are pushing paper at a desk somewhere.
They were shortly assigned to be meter maids out, out on the Brooklyn Beach.
Now, I don't know how that translates because there is a French Connection too.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how that translates to the second film. Like, does Gene Hackman's character now have like a vendetta and he just, is working on it himself, or?
Well, we'll see when we get to
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to cover it. And apparently, though it sounds like a bad, choice to do a sequel to this movie, apparently it's well received. So
no, I it's just something like, because this movie, when I was going through my finding like cult classics, like and watching them in college, like on Stage Foo illegally, this is one of the films that I got to, and I just never got to, check out French Connection too. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
Back in those days. So.
Yeah, I've definitely never seen it, but
because it's not like but either of these films have ever been played on TV.
No.
At least during our lifetime.
Mm-mm.
Now, one of the big things we haven't talked about is, what do you think of the whole chasing of the L scene?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's another really good scene of him, it basically tracking down a car. A couple people blast right by him. Fuck this guy. I don't know this crazy dude in the middle of the road. Like, I'm out of here. But tracking down a car, blasting down New York City roads, chasing the train. It's great. It's lovely, and I love when he gets out of the car, and you see the sort of like fatigue of like the stress of driving when he's like, he gets out and he's basically, falling over.
Around.
Yeah. I mean, cause that makes sense, right? That's realism. That's not like, somebody driving through and you're like, jump out of the car, roll over the roof, stuff like that. it makes sense that he'd be like fucking tired as shit after he gets done with that, but he still is chasing this guy. So I really like it. I think it's, again, really realistic. I love the fact that there's that like almost horror-esque chase sequence within the train where the police officers, like heard Popeye say like, stop that guy. He just shot somebody, and the police officer's like, I should investigate that. And, he's walking through the train while the sniper is, also walking through the train to not try to, alarm all of the passengers. I like that like stalking sequence. I think it's really good. It's, very tense. And then at the end, of
Great
course,
squibs.
yeah, of course, all of the squibs, blasting people away with that. It just gives like a weight to the proceedings when.
How do you like the guy running the train, like having like a heart attack? Passing
He's just like, I feel like if I was in that position, that would be the way I would like to go, because it's just, like, I can't even deal with this anymore. I'm just gonna have a heart attack and be out of this. That's the way to go. Like,
go off into that sweet.
Yeah, just don't deal with it at all. Like that's. Yeah, no, but it's a great moment. I think it's great with the whole chase sequence of him, roaring down the streets. It's awesome.
So how do you like? I want what are your thoughts on that car chase, like that chase scene?
What do you mean though? Like specifically,
So how do you how does that car chase rank for you? Is it like as a car chase? Like how effective is it? Like how?
I think it's really effective. I think. Like there are obviously like certain car chases have done, better for action, but I think like the intensity of chasing the train, tracking it, knowing, that you've got to get to the end of the station. I think it all works really well. It's a very effective chase scene. The only thing is that I feel like there's not enough display of like Hackman actually being able to see the train. Kind of leaves it like a little like
obscured.
Obscured. Other than that though, I think it's really effective. It works really well. Again, it's another one of those sequences that just adds to the very fast pacing of the film, of just, event after event after event happens. Pretty much everything is kind of a chase in this movie. And it just, it's just really fun and effective to watch.
It's been considered one of the best chase scenes in cinema history.
Yeah. I mean, and it shows. It is really intense. It's great. I love it.
I would say one car collision that the one car that comes off to the left and hits it, and it goes off to the side.
Yep.
That impact. That was an actual person that drove onto it.
Oh. Yeah, because I'm sure they didn't shut down certain places for this.
No, they didn't have permits for some of the stuff they were doing. You can kind of tell, They were doing fly by night, some of the shooting, which is again that whole auteur, grindhouse, let's fucking go for it. That's
yeah.
I think that kind of stuff totally adds to this type of films charisma and enjoyment. It really makes you engrossed in it, because all the stuff that's happening is it's real. It's it's not something that you can look at and go, that really seems like a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, it all adds to the realism. I think it works really well. You can kind of tell that a lot of those shots and things, they were not blocked off. They were just shooting at the time, and people were actually coming through those areas. So yeah, it's really intense. I think it works really well. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but I really like the fact that the film has a very limited amount of actual used music for it. I think it works much better to not really, utilize background score and just let the things work.
But Don Ellis' score is great. I love the frantic jazz freestyle nature, the piano beats that he's playing. When it is going on, it's fits the scene, but it's very frantic and chaotic.
I think using it so sparsely actually works better for it because it does elevate the amount of like franticness that it has. So it's a great score, but I do think that they did a good job of limiting it to when they really wanted to use it, instead of like relying on it to tell the story in the background. So I think it works really well. Anything? Oh, what do you think about the whole using the French actor as sort of like the fall guy for it? They basically just
what an ugly son of a bitch. The fact that they're like this handsome TV star of France, and it's like those turtlenecks and plaids he's wearing, fucking terrible. And he looks like the villain in the Starsky and Hutch like movie, like that like Tim Robbins, like
yeah,
shit. Lee just looks awful. But two, that's like it's a great idea. It's like Charnier is a very smart man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea. And not only that, the fact they put in the rocker panels. And we get to see the car getting stripped down to its bones. Everything's ripped apart, and they're like, you can't find it. And then Roy Scheider's the one who's like, the car says it's supposed to weigh this, but it said it weighs this. Like, and they've like the mechanic to be like, the only thing I didn't fucking rip out was the rocker panels. And they rip open the rocker panels, and that's where the heroin is. It's fucking brilliant.
It is great. It's
like,
it's great because I like the way that it kind of sets up the audience to be like, yeah, we knew it. God damn it. Fucking Popeye, he thought he had it and look at what he did. They ripped apart a car and it wasn't there. And then, eventually they're like, what the fuck are the rocker panels then? Fucking open them. And then they do it and they're there. It's sort of like this nice reveal for the audience to kind of breathe a sigh of relief and like, okay, all right, he was right. yeah, exactly. I think it works really well.
It's so mundane. Like that whole, the way, it's such a mundane idea for that to be the epiphany.
Yep.
But it's so great because that's like something usually, especially today, it's these extraordinary, monk Columbo, ridiculous, over the top, hunches and well, this is how this happened. And this is so mundane and normal. It's great though. It worked. I think that's something films kind of miss today is don't try to overcomplicate the shit. Just make keep it simple, stupid.
I also think it's really great when Roy Scheider comes out, for the actor and he's like, oh, so sorry we kept you waiting for 4 hours. And you think you're going to lead him back to a car that's taken apart, right?
Oh, that would be great.
That would be great. It's here's your car. But they don't. They lead him back to the nice, fresh car, and they don't bust him there. You're kind of thinking oh, they're gonna bust him here now. Nope. It's the bigger fish. So I like that. I like that element too. I thought that was cool.
Don't you love that they're buying in this 1971 cars for scrap for $15?
Ooh, yeah.
When they're doing that nice auction, $20 a car.
20? Oh, it's too much. I don't know. $20? Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's great. This is how times have changed. All right. So, anything else you wanted to add before we get into the rating?
I think that's about it.
I think we covered it. So, on a scale of 0 to 10, totally unnecessary beehive hairdo wigs, what would you give The French Connection?
I'll give it a 9 out of 10. I love this movie. I think it's great. It's been a while since I've seen it. It's a terrific film. It's got all the great detective noir film aspects. It's an engaging, police story, police drama. Gene Hackman's great. Popeye Doyle's great. There's a lot of scenes that we didn't even talk about with him shaking down people with Roy Scheider. That's really intense and works out great. And he shows just how much of a bastard he is. But he's great. Roy Scheider's also great, understated, but he does a really good job. Fernando Rey as Charnier, terrific. He's very charismatic, charming. incredibly smart and intelligent, and Will Friedkin does a great job, directing the film. It's got its own nice pace. It's almost 2 hours long. It's an hour and 48 minutes long, but it's incredibly well paced, fast, intense, gets you engrossed in the film. I like it a lot. I think even still today, this film holds up. I think it's a great film, and I think it's a great standout of that time period and these types of films that were coming out. This is up there with the best. Terrific film. I can't recommend it enough. So 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 as well. It's really great. I had a lot of fun with it. Just a swiftly moving sequence of events that occur, from the fact that like how you first meet these guys to the constant tailing of different people, the detective work that you're involved in that doesn't rely on just interviewing people, all works great. I love the fact that Friedkin in the film itself is not really outright spoken about whether we should actually be, rooting for these guys or not as detectives. It kind of leaves it up in the air as to whether what they're doing is actually right or not. The whole idea of it with this drug smuggling ring doesn't seem like it would be that interesting because it seems like it's very like kind of on the nose. It's just kind of, yeah, some people are smuggling drugs, like whatever. But it is actually much more involved than that. It's got a lot of like little through lines to it that the film kind of brings out. And again, it doesn't rely on exposition much at all. It sort of just kind of envelops the viewer and sort of allows you to make those connections yourself as you watch. Some of it is delivered through narrative, so a lot of the action is kind of happening on screen while you hear the narrative, and I think that works really well too to keep the movie feeling well paced. Overall, there's a lot of things to like about this, from car chases to the way that the choreography is done with the tailing on the streets, the final encounter between Charnier and the police, which inevitably ends with Charnier escaping, and the film kind of ending on a dour note, I really like as well. I think all of that, comes together to make a really effective movie. French Connection still is extremely well done, and, I can't imagine anybody watching this and not being engaged with it. So 9 out of 10, it was really, really great movie. Probably one of the best crime thrillers that I've seen in a while. All right, so that ends our coverage of the French Connection. What did we have up next on the agenda? Did we have anything planned, or
no? That's up for you to decide.
It's for me to decide. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't know specifically what I want to do. Maybe we'll do Vice Squad. That would be a nice. Wings Hauser just recently passed away as well, so try to get that in. Maybe Vice Squad would be a good lead in here. Of course, very kind of similar ideas to the French Connection, but it's fine. Cult film fan, so possibly that. And yeah, I don't know. Coming up, maybe we'll go see the Minecraft movie.
Shut your
I think I'm gonna have to. My son wants to see it, so I think I'm gonna have to go see it. So.
Well, you be that person.
I was watching the basketball game, and they had an ad for it up on the basketball game. He was like, "Oh, what are all those creepers doing?" Oh God, we're gonna have to see this movie.
How is it 15 years later that game is still relevant? I've never played it before.
I never played it, and I don't really have a interest in playing it at all. Never played it. But
any games that involve me having to build shit,
yeah, I agree. Care. Yeah, no,
I'm not playing a video game to be Bob the Builder. I want to be fucking like Master Chief, destroying a whole army. I don't want it's like this, like when Fallout did that, which it's like stop. Like I'm not trying to do Sim City. I want to fucking just kill ghouls.
Yep. So yeah, I agree with you there. Another one that. I'd like to do at some point, Alice, Sweet Alice. I just got that on 4K. It's a good movie, good slasher film. Kind of underappreciated. So It's another one that we can do at some point. There were a couple other things that I had been thinking about that I was like, maybe we should do that too. That maybe we will do at some point. No Country for Old Men, another one that would be a good one to do at some point.
I would love to do that movie. It's
So,
a great movie.
Yeah. So
we haven't done any Coen Brothers.
No, we haven't. No. So thoughts for the future, for sure. All right. Well, thanks for listening to our episode on the French Connection. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe to us on pretty much any podcast app that you could think of. We're on our home base at Spotify or Apple Podcasts or, anything that you use. We're on it. Leave us a nice review. Always helps us out. We're on Facebook and Blue Sky. Just search for us on there, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. We have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com where you can write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what movies you want us to cover. And you can also donate to us on our Spotify page or at our Patreon page. Anything you donate goes back towards beer. So we appreciate that in advance. Thanks for listening to our episode. We will see you back next time for another installment of Blood and Black Rum Podcast. And until then,
take care.